Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And again, I want to thank everybody for joining us here in this meeting to get some more information on exactly what our small um, group reentering into school, into live person setting is going to actually look like here at Valley High School. I know after this, you probably have a lot of questions, but on the very bottom of this, there is a link that you can do, and go to a Google form that you can click on that and ask a question. But it's going to be important that as you ask that question, that you put an email address so I can get back to you to respond to your question, and hopefully I can answer your question. And again, like I said, be going through all this. There's going to be questions that I think are going to arise as we go through this. But again, use that Google form. I won't be able to answer those questions here tonight. I'm hoping I have enough information that your questions will be answered, but I know that there's still going to be questions after the fact. But use that Google form on the bottom of this page. Click on that, ask your question, make sure you do enter an email so I can get back to you and respond back to the question that you asked. So again, I wanted just to kind of get started to kind of go through here. And again, all this is on a volunteer basis on our staff as we enter this new small group coming back on campus. Currently, we have 19 staff members that have volunteered to come back and to offer support for our students. And as I go through the schedule and kind of going through all this, you'll see more how it kind of evolve into something a little bit bigger as we go forward. Now, the one thing that you do need to keep in the back of your mind as we go in through this new phase of students coming back on campus, it is not going to look like it was in pre-pandemic form. So what I'm saying that is that all social distancing, mask wearing, all CDC guidelines that are in place right now will need to be followed by the students once they are on campus. That means the minute they get on campus, whether they drive on their own, they get dropped off, their face mask is going to have to be worn at all times while they're on campus. Right now, they do need to bring in their own bottled water. That we don't have any stations that for them to get water, so they need to bring their own drinking. Right now, we are working with our food services that we are going to be offering some grab and go lunches for our families, for our students that actually come on campus. So we're working with food services to provide that type of a service. So again, the criteria we're going to be looking at, and you just need to kind of keep this in the back of your mind as we go through. And I hope that you guys have all been able to take advantage of that survey that I sent out last night to you, indicating whether you wanted your student to participate in this volunteer coming back in small group form that we're going to be offering here at Valley High School. So the criteria that we're going to be following, and we're going to be using this last grading period right now. Our first priority of students is going to be as follows. So we're going to be looking at any senior that failed 2 or more classes this last grading period that ended. So we're going to look at them as a first priority. And then we're also going to look at underclassmen that had failed 2 or more classes last grading period. So again, that's our first priority to get those students back in there. And again, once we make contact with those families, it'll be up to those families to make that decision whether they want their student to actually come back on campus or not. And again, it's all on a volunteer basis, but that's the first set of criteria. The second priority that we'll look at based on the availability, we'll be looking again at seniors that have failed 1 class, and then also looking at underclassmen that have failed 1 class this last grading period. So that's kind of our second priority to look at that. Another thing that we're going to be looking at are for those families that do not have any connectivity or having connectivity issues at home. We are going to be looking at those families to offer. We are going to be offering. We're calling it a internet cafe. And so we're going to have different areas of our campus open up for students to actually come on so they can hook onto the internet and do their classwork as as needed for that particular day. It's going to be important that they know that they would come in. They will be in certain areas where they will be staying at for their classes if this is they wish to use the technology that we have available at the school. It will be important that any student that takes part in this back to school, that they do come to on campus and come to their class that we have them assigned to, will be that they do need to make sure that their Chromebook is fully charged when they do come on campus, because that'll still be the technology that's going to be used during the classroom. The difference is we'll actually have some teachers there working with them, but those students will be needing to pull up work and doing stuff from their classrooms off their Chromebook. So it's going to be important that the students, if selected for this, that they bring a fully charged Chromebook onto campus on the day or days that they will be coming on campus. So right now we talked about our internet cafes, which is a technology that's available for students to actually log on there. And what we're looking at on Mondays from 8 to 12, that internet cafe will be open for students to actually come on campus to hook on to the Wi-Fi and do their coursework. And again, on Mondays, that's asynchronous day. So that's where they can be doing some of their independent work. But again, if they are having issues at home, they can come on campus to do that. So we're going to make that available for our students from 8 to 12. And again, it'll be open again from 1 to 3. We'll be taking a break from 12 to 1 for lunch. And again, if those students elect to stay on campus, there will be some grab and go lunches available for those students during that time for that internet cafe. Later on, for the rest of the week, on Tuesdays through Thursdays, on the internet cafe that we have available, will be Tuesdays through Thursdays from 1 to 3 p.m. If needed, we can open it up earlier on the day, but what we wanted to do is to make sure that those students are logging into their classes during the course of the day. Again, if they're having issues logging on and they need to log into those classes on a need basis, we will work with those students and those families so those students can actually come on earlier before 1 o'clock, and we'll make arrangements to have them take their classes online here at the school from a certain area that we have the internet cafe set up. Now, the way this is going to look at, and again, and we're calling it small group targeted interventions for our students, is that what we're going to do is, again, it's all on a volunteer basis, and it's based on the availability of the teachers that we actually have here for our students. So what we're going to do is on Mondays, and again, our schedule is going to change a little bit different beginning on Monday, March 8th, and we will make sure that we're sending out the new schedule that we will be following from here on out, now that we're doing this small groups coming back on campus. So on Monday, because that's an asynchronous day for all students, what we've done is we're going to be altering our schedule somewhat so we can make sure that students are able to come on campus. So what we're going to be doing, and again, all this is going to be sent out to you families through the Sunday updates that I sent out. And so from 8 to 8:30 is going to be asynchronous again for the students. Now, our advisory that we've normally had at 10:15 is now going to be moved to 8:45 in the morning. And so we're going to have advisory a little bit earlier on there for students to attend their advisory. And then from 9 to 10 is basically an asynchronous time, but that's going to be allowing students to actually come on campus. And I'm going to explain to you how this is going to work. On Mondays, it's going to be teacher discretion and whether they want to bring their particular class into their classroom on Mondays between the hours of 10 to 12, that a student A can say that I want my second period class to come in on Monday, March 8th. They're going to ask those students if they wish to come on campus. They will meet with that teacher. They will meet with that teacher in their classroom and get instruction with that teacher, with their own teacher on that particular day in that classroom. Again, so that'll go from 8 to 12, and then we will, again, break for lunch. There's going to be some grab and go lunches available for students. And then from 1 to 3, Again, that same teacher might say, okay, I want my fourth period class to come in from 1 to 4. And again, if those students wish to come in, they're going to be made available to actually come to that teacher's classroom. And again, this is going to be through invitation by the teacher to those students for Monday. And this is only on Monday only. So again, you need to make sure you're aware that Monday, if a teacher elects to come onto campus with certain class periods of their own, they will make arrangements with that class period and those students to come onto campus for them to get face-to-face instruction with that teacher during that particular day. So Mondays will be the only day that's going to be available for those students to actually be with their own teacher, provided their teacher is willing to volunteer to come in on that day. On Tuesday through Thursday is going to be a little bit differently. So on Tuesdays through Thursday is the students are in class through on Tuesdays, which it'll be 1, 2, 4, 6, and Thursdays again is 1, 2, 4, 6, and then Wednesdays and Fridays is 1, 3, 5, 7. Again, Fridays will be 1, 3, 5, 7. So they'll attend those classes the way they were meant to be for those class periods during that time, which in our schedule right now it ends right around 12:05 for the students to be completed with their last class for that day. So then they would be broken. They would have a lunch break, and then students that are willing to come in small groups along with the teachers that have volunteered, we are going to be breaking up those students into different types of groups and into different types of wings for the students to actually attend. So what I wanted to kind of share with you on that one is how this would actually look like. And so one of the things that we will be keeping track of is making sure that in each of the classrooms, and this goes for a Monday schedule as well, that there would be a max of 12 students per classroom on any given day with that teacher for that particular class. So again, we will be monitoring that it's 10 through at the max of 12 students per classroom. So on Tuesdays through Friday, here's an example of how this will be set up. And I wish I can kind of share this with you, but the way this is set up with the mainstream, with the YouTube, is there's no way I can kind of share my screen so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. But I will be sending out examples starting tomorrow night to share with the families as how this is going to actually, what it actually looks like. And like I said, we will leave things blank, but it'll give you an idea of where students can actually fall into on there during the course of the time that they're actually going to be here on campus. So on Tuesdays through Fridays, and we've talked about that internet cafe, that we would have certain teachers that are going to be made available from 1 until 3 to make sure that students are being monitored while they are in class or getting work assignments or whatever they need to for logging in for classes, whether they have to submit work, do work, or whatever. But that way the internet cafe would be made available, and we would have staff members that would monitor that from 1 to 3, Tuesday through Friday. And then again, during that same course on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're going to have a wing set up for those students that we've identified and that are willing to partake in this, that need help in math. So we will have enough math teachers that have volunteered to actually be in a room, and that those students would actually be assigned to that teacher and to that one room for them to get some targeted and some individual self-tutoring help at that particular time for those subjects. We'll have another wing set up for each of the students that if they have issues or having a hard time in science, we're going to have 4 different science teachers set up throughout the week, Tuesday through Friday, again from 1 to 3, so that those students that are having issues or having a hard time with science, they would be assigned to a science teacher on those days. The same will go for if they're having a hard time and struggling in English. They would have we would have English teachers that are assigned for that week, that we would assign those students to be getting some individual attention, again, from the hours of 1 to 3 with a certified staff member in English. And the same thing would go for social studies, that we would have certified social studies teachers are going to be made available where those students go to. So what's really unique about this, so let's just say you have a student that's really struggling in two classes. What we can actually do for you, and that's why it's important that you take the time to fill out that survey that I sent out to you, because that's where we're going to get our information from, especially from the students. So as we start pulling out our data from the last grading period, we'll be able to start matching up things. But as an example, so let's just say your student was struggling in math and in English. So what we can do for that student is that we can have that student come in like on a Tuesday from 1 to 3, and we assign them to math on that day. And then we can maybe assign them on either Wednesday or Thursday to go back to an English teacher to get some additional support. And then we can do that again for that Thursday, Friday, if we feel that they need a lot more interventions to go on at that particular time. So if a student is really struggling, we have the capability of actually putting students into one or more of the different types of areas that we actually have for them to get the support that's needed for them to be successful in that particular class. So again, what we're going to be working on, striving for as part of this small group, is we're going to really concentrate on all our core areas, which is our math, science, social studies, and English. That's what we are going to really work on to make sure that the students are successful and are going to be able to meet the challenge and be successful and get their grade to get their credit for this semester. So again, what we want to do again is look at these small groups entering, coming in, and we're going to be looking at it where it's going to be targeted on there as to with what the needs are for those students. And then we will be breaking them up into what is available. Now, the one thing that you do need to keep in mind is that if the need is greater than what we actually have of teachers volunteering on that, then we would have to look at an alternate basis to make sure that we can try to service as many students as possible, that we would work on that. So again, the availability is going to be how many teachers we actually have that are going to be on there. And again, like I said, if the need is greater than what we actually have of staff members, then we're going to have to work on how we pare that down to make sure that all the students that need the help are going to be able to get the help that's needed for each of their for the subject areas that they're actually having a hard time in. And that. So again, with me talking on all that, again, I know there's going to be some questions that actually come up, is so that way you can be looking at and ask those questions, and I'll get back to those questions maybe tonight, or hope for sure by tomorrow, so we can kind of go from there. At this particular time, I think we've gone through everything that we needed to do. And again, I wanted to kind of reemphasize, and I'll kind of hash this with everybody else, is that beginning March 8th, this is the targeted day that we're looking to begin this. On Mondays will be totally different. Again, that's going to be to the discretion of teachers. And talking with the staff today, we had many teachers that were willing to really look at that Monday where they can bring in selected periods of their class to come in on Mondays and not necessarily have to volunteer for the rest of the week to be working with students the rest of the week, but they're willing to bring in their students in their small groups on Monday. So I think if we're able to do that, we might be able to even get a higher percentage of our students to make sure that they're coming on campus in a safe way and still meet everything that needs to do with this small reentry plan. So again, I'm going to re-look at this, and I'll kind of rehash exactly what again would it look like. Again, our Monday schedule would be 8 to 8:30 are going to be our staff meetings and all that. That's asynchronous for our students. 8:45 to 9 o'clock will be our advisory that we have for our students. And we've cut that down quite a bit because at this point of the year, we're doing a lot of checking in, and we're working a lot with our students on a one-to-one basis that we can do during that advisory on that. And then it gives us a block of time for our students to actually, again, work on. There's some asynchronous, some other work, but from 10 to 12 is where teachers would have the capability of bringing in selective classes for that time frame. And to kind of give you an example here, now I have a couple of teachers here that said it was okay to use their names as an example. So I want to use like Mr. Pavat. Mr. Pavat said that in this type of a schedule on a Monday in block 1, which is 10 to 12, he would be willing to bring in his Avid 9 kids that come in during that block of time, and he'd be working with them. And then from 1 to 3, he would bring in his Avid 12, his seniors. So he would be bringing them in at that time. So in reality, Mr. Pavat is actually bringing in 2 classes on that Friday, block 1 for the Avid 9 and the Avid 12. Mrs. Chavez, who teaches drama, she had a thing with what she would do, the block 1, which is 10 to noon. She would be bringing in the beginning drama students on that, so that way she can work with them more individually at that particular time. And then from 1 to 3, she would bring in the advanced drama students. So again, she would be bringing in 2 classes at that particular time for week 1. Now, week 2, she can break it off into maybe some other classes to bring them on. Another example would be is Mr. Korsh. He said, like in block 1, he would bring in his AP government kids. And so this is a perfect opportunity for him to actually be meeting with those students and start prepping them and working with them now for the AP exam that they'll be taking now at the end of April, the beginning of May. Then in block 2, which is from 1 to 3, Mr. Corsa would be willing to bring in his AP Econ students, and again, to start working with those students that are going to be taking the AP exam, where he can be giving them some more test prep to get themselves ready for that AP exam. So then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, again, everything would change up a little bit. And then you have to keep in mind as we kind of move forward with this is that the most that any teacher could actually have in a classroom at any given time would be 12 students. And again, if the need begins to get more, then we will start looking at a different venue, how we would stagger the students to make sure we can get as many students back on campus as possible. Again, on this Monday schedule, what this really helps with a whole lot is for elective classes to bring these students in so they can get a sense of what's actually going on in some of those electives. And I'll kind of give you an example, even though and this is culinary arts, even though the students wouldn't be able to actually be cooking at this particular time, touching any of the other stuff, but the teacher, Mrs. Sarpa, would actually be willing to do some live demonstrations with her class as to what it would look like to prepare whatever she has prepared for that particular day, so the students can actually start seeing some stuff in a live setting, because I know she's been working with the students to do some cooking from through a remote. And we do understand that some of the families have had a hard time getting some of the supplies on there. And Ms. Sarpa has been working with those families to get them the supplies that are needed for them to actually cook and whatever needs to be done as part of her curriculum on there. And again, these are just examples with what the teachers are coming up with. And this gives a perfect thing for our elective teachers to start bringing those kids in. Also, because the way it's set up, this is a perfect opportunity too, that we can kind of start bringing in some of our 9th graders that have never been on campus, that we can kind of start working with our 9th graders at this particular time to show them what Valley High School really looks like. Because for the majority of our 9th graders, if they didn't have a sibling that came to Valley High School, a lot of them do not even know which is B Hall, which is A Hall. They don't even know where they would be dropped off and so forth. But this is a perfect way that we can kind of start slowly showing them with what Valley High School looks like and with where their classes are. And it'll give them an idea of where things would be at when they begin their sophomore year into 21-22. So then, again, going back on this, we look again at the Tuesday, Thursday setup, which again, that'll be from 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoons, set up for those. And we're looking just at the core subject at that time, where we would have everything staggered out for each one of those days, that we would have each of those core subjects being offered with one or more teachers on each of those given days on there, so we can kind of make sure that the students are actually going to be getting the help that's needed. The one thing that you do have to remember on Tuesday through Friday, the students, there's a possibility that they would not have a teacher that they actually have. They might have another core subject area teacher at the given time. So that's a possibility. So you need to know right off the bat that on Tuesday through Thursday, there's a very good chance that your student would be with a teacher other than what they've had in those core subject areas. For some of your students, that for those teachers that have actually volunteered, they might end up having that. And when we start breaking down the student and kind of looking at which students will want to take advantage of that, obviously we are going to try to pair them up with the teachers that are volunteer, so that way there's at least another familiar face for that student that they're with for Tuesday through Thursday in any of those core areas that we go through. So that's how we have our schedule that we're going to look at proposing. The one thing that I do need to reemphasize again, that there's no transportation for this. At some point, if transportation becomes available, I'll make sure that I notify you on how transportation can take place if that becomes available through APS. The one thing that was sent to us today from the city of Albuquerque, that beginning this week, that any student under the age of 21 can ride the city bus for free. They're starting to run their buses again a lot more frequently. So again, beginning this week, anyone under the age of 21, city bus services are going to be made available for free for anybody under the age of 21. So the city's kind of working with this on that part as well as kind of go from there. It is important from here on out that you really look at the emails that are being sent out, because there is a lot of information as we start winding down this second semester. We've already gone through one grading period. We have two more that are here. But for you parents that are here that have seniors, just a quick reminder, there's some emails that went out over this weekend that had a lot of information for the seniors on there. So it's important that you're reading that information. And so for those of you that are logged on in here that might have a senior student, again, our graduation is scheduled for May 10th at 2:30 p.m. and that'll be held at the Valley High School Gymnasium. We're working out on details. It's going to be very limited as to who actually can come into the ceremony. But if the CDC and the health guidelines change, the district is going to be working at trying to work at bigger venues at that particular time. But for right now, that's how it's going to be set up, with streaming that'll be set up for the ceremonies at the school, and actually in a bigger venue if we're allowed to go into a bigger venue. So again, there's just a lot of information that goes out. I strongly encourage you to make sure that you're reading your emails that go out on a Sunday from me, because it does have a lot of information that pertains to that week or for the upcoming weeks. So again, I want to just thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule to get some information on this. And again, I know there's going to be questions that come up. Please use that tab on the bottom, that link, to ask the question. Make sure you put your email so I know I can respond back to the question that you might ask at that time. And I will try to get back to a lot of those questions either tonight or for sure by tomorrow. I'll get back to anybody that puts questions in there. And that link is going to be stayed open for 2 days. So it'll be for today. It'll be left all day tomorrow, and then we'll close it on Wednesday on that. So that way we can kind of move forward. And like I said, we're going to be looking at our data on that and looking at the people that have replied to the survey already, so we can start matching up students with the teachers and kind of start putting that in place. So we can make contact with those families to let them know that they'll be coming in on beginning on Tuesday of next week. And again, we'll go from there. Teachers that are willing to volunteer to come in on a Monday will be notifying their classes, and they'll be notifying us, because like I said, we have to make sure that all health guidelines are going to be followed. So that way we know exactly where we're going to be at and what we're looking at for the amount of students being on campus on that particular day, so we can kind of go from there. So again, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to get this information. And again, if you have any questions, use that Google link to send me the questions, or feel free to use my email and send me questions that you might have. And my email is Griego_A@aps.edu. So again, thank you, and have